This is the story of a young man named Lorenzo who ends up hiding in a church just to save his own life. But what he didn't expect was that every nun there would fall for him, and things only get wilder from there. We open with a man painting inside a church. He's been working there for days, but still hasn't been paid. So he goes to the priest to ask for his money, only to discover the priest has died from the plague. With no one left to pay him, he's heartbroken. But then he sees the priest's robes lying nearby. And just like that, he decides to become the new father himself. Meanwhile, we meet Lorenzo, a charming young man running for his life. He's being chased by the men of a guy named Gerbino. Somehow, Lorenzo escapes and rushes to his friends, who tell him to flee the city for his safety. He agrees and rides off on horseback. Next, we meet Pampinea, a noblewoman mourning her parents, who died from the plague. She's heartbroken, and unfortunately, that's when Gerbino shows up. With her family gone, Gerbino tries to take advantage of the situation. He tells Pampinea that her father owed him money, and now that her family's dead, he owns everything, including the house. The only way she can keep it is by marrying him. Back to Lorenzo, still on the run. He bumps into a man carrying a dead body. When he asks who it was, the man says he was a deaf and mute gardener from the nearby church. That gives Lorenzo an idea. If the church needs a new deaf-mute gardener, he could pretend to be that man and stay hidden. Trying to escape Gerbino's men, Lorenzo climbs a tree, but the branch breaks and he falls hard, knocking himself unconscious. That's when a group of nuns finds him and carries him into the church. Let's just say, these nuns weren't exactly saints. One of them begins touching Lorenzo while he pretends to stay unconscious. Not because he is unconscious, but because he kind of likes the attention. The head nun arrives. The younger nuns quickly lie and say Lorenzo is deaf and mute. The senior nun is thrilled. They've been looking for someone exactly like him. That way, he won't be able to tell anyone what goes on inside. Lorenzo is hired on the spot, and yes, he keeps pretending he can't speak or hear. Later, while Lorenzo is bathing, two nuns sneak in, drop their robes, and start bathing with him. Lorenzo doesn't resist. In fact, he joins right in. Turns out, this wasn't a one-time thing. The nuns had hired a mute gardener so they could do whatever they wanted without any risk of being exposed. Meanwhile, Pampinea arrives at the same church, trying to hide from Gerbino. When the nuns help her change clothes, she sees Lorenzo and asks who he is. They tell her he's just the deaf-mute gardener. But later, Pampinea sees Lorenzo sneaking into the bushes with another nun, and she gets jealous. Why? Because she's starting to like him. Across town, the Russian prince Dzerzhinsky, who Pampinea was promised to, arrives at her old estate. Gerbino tells him Pampinea is marrying him instead. Disappointed, the prince leaves. But just outside the city, someone tells the prince that Pampinea is actually waiting for him in another town, so he sets off to find her. Back at the church, even more nuns find out about Lorenzo. And you guessed it, they want their turn too. At this point, Lorenzo becomes the center of attention. But the only person he's really interested in is Pampinea. One day, Pampinea hears him singing while he works, and realizes something shocking. He's not deaf or mute at all. Later, she blindfolds Lorenzo and kisses him, confessing her love. But she doesn't reveal her identity, leaving Lorenzo confused but smitten. Before she leaves the church, Pampinea tells the head nun the truth, that Lorenzo is faking it. The nun is furious and kicks him out. On her way back home, Pampinea runs into Lorenzo again. He begs her to let him come with her, and she agrees. After all, she already loves him. Elsewhere, the prince finally finds a girl by the lake who says she's Pampinea. He believes her because he's never actually met the real one. But she's not Pampinea. She's her friend Mona. Lorenzo and Pampinea return to her estate. During a conversation, he confesses he fell in love with a girl at the church, the one who blindfolded and kissed him. Pampinea smiles. That was her, but Lorenzo still hasn't figured it out. Before she can confess, Gerbino shows up, furious to see Lorenzo. He challenges him to a fight. Lorenzo is no match and nearly gets killed, but Pampinea stops him, saying if Gerbino kills Lorenzo, she'll never marry him. Gerbino spares Lorenzo and locks him in a dungeon instead. The next day, Pampinea agrees to marry Gerbino, but only if he releases Lorenzo. Gerbino agrees. Meanwhile, the fake priest from the beginning is hired to conduct the wedding. Pampinea secretly gives him money and tells him to sabotage the ceremony. Gerbino's men take Lorenzo to the woods to kill him, but Lorenzo overpowers them and rushes back. By now, the Russian prince has also arrived, and he's armed. He barges into the wedding and scares Gerbino off. In the chaos, he kills Gerbino and his men. Pampinea tells the prince she can't marry him because she's in love with someone else. She removes her veil, and the prince realizes she's not the woman he met earlier. Mona walks in, and the prince smiles, realizing she's the girl he wants to marry. Lorenzo and Pampinea finally reunite. She proposes to him, but Lorenzo says he already loves someone else, the girl who kissed him blindfolded. Pampinea asks for one kiss, and when he kisses her, he finally realizes she's the one.